Today on Studio 18 Live, presented by Old Venice Pizza Company, we'll be discussing upcoming changes to the NCAA and other governance issues. To join the conversation, tweet your questions using hashtag Studio18, or you can email your questions to studio18@olemiss.edu. Here now are Michael Thompson, AD for Marketing and Communications, and this week's guest, Athletics Director Ross Bjork.
Welcome to Studio 18 Live, presented by Old Venice Pizza Company. We've got a very timely topic to talk about today with Ross Bjork. But before we get to that, this week's Twitter question was, what are you looking forward to most about having a day game in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium? So keep the tweets coming in. Make sure to hashtag Studio 18 and look for your tweet to scroll across the bottom line. But let's talk to Ross here about the NCAA and some governance issues. But you didn't answer the question on Twitter, I don't think.
I don't believe so. What am I looking forward to about a day game?
A day game. A day game.
Sunshine, seeing all the colors, on our campus that come out on a game day. We haven't had that all year with the day game. So that'll be, I think, a spectacular setting. 11:20 kickoff, see the sunshine. I don't think it's supposed to rain. It's not in the forecast. But I didn't recognize you, Michael, at the beginning. I had to kind of
you had to
double take with
see past the beard, huh?
The growth there that you've got for No Shave November.
No Shave November.
It's a good look you got.
Right. Oh, thanks. All right, let's talk governance here. Last month, a big group of leaders met to discuss some of the issues that are facing college athletics and the NCAA. Tell us a little bit about who's in that group and what you guys, what the purpose of that group is.
Right. Just some structure, foundation, if you will, of the NCAA. Right now, there's an executive committee that's made up of membership of really primarily presidents from Division I, Division II, Division III. And they govern essentially the entire NCAA organization with Mark Emmert as the president. And then within Division I, you have a board of directors, which is primarily made up of presidents, once again, that represent conferences around our Division I body. Mm-hmm. So you really have those two bodies that govern both the NCAA and govern both Division I. And so those groups gathered last week in Indianapolis, and then what they did is they heard from all the different constituent groups, coaches associations, athletic director associations, conference commissioners, amateurism groups, the Knight Commission, which was founded in 1989 to talk about college athletics and the proper place of athletics in higher education. All those groups presented to the board and the executive committee to state their desired outcome of any potential governance and structure changes within the NCAA. So that's who gathered last week. It was an all-day affair. And then the next day we had an SEC athletic director meeting where we got an update on that meeting. So it's a very intense process right now, but it's much needed as we'll get into.
Yes. Speaking of much needed, what are maybe two or three of the biggest issues this group's trying to tackle?
Frankly, and we've all, as athletic directors, we've really tried to be honest about this whole conversation, and I think the presidents and chancellors have been the same way. There's a confidence problem with the way the NCAA operates, with the way we're structured, and so I think the first thing is we have to get back, as an association, as an industry, the confidence, the public confidence. And we have to make meaningful changes to accomplish that, to get the confidence level back of the public opinion, if you will. So I think the first thing is confidence, and that means you have to make some changes. And the next thing that they're looking at is how are we structured? Does that executive committee represent the right kind of structure to run the NCAA? Mm-hmm. Does the board of directors of Division I represent the right kind of structure to govern what we need to accomplish within Division I? And so that the confidence part, the structure part, those are really the two things that need to come out of all this change is how are we governed, who has a voice at the table, and then what are the meaningful changes that can impact the confidence part and really get back to center, and that's student-athlete welfare.
Right.
That's why we're here. That's what we talk about all the time. Get back to center on taking care of our student-athletes within the framework of higher education.
That's a good segue. So taking care of our student-athletes, some people may hear that and think, they need to be paid, or some sort of pay-for-play model. Are you an advocate of that?
I'm not. And if you ask it that way, absolutely not. The whole pay-for-play model is not something we're looking at. As athletic directors, we have come together as both Division I athletic directors, a group of 125 of us that play FBS football, and then there's another group of 350 combined that represent Division I. And the athletic directors have come together in a single voice, and we have all said and we all agree that student athletes should not be paid for play. We do believe, however, especially in the top 5 conferences, Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10, ACC, SEC, that there should be a model where our student athletes receive more resources through their scholarship program. So we think there's a redefinition of the scholarship model that needs to be put in place. The cost of attendance. Right now we pay, books, room, tuition, board, fees, but it also costs money to attend. It costs money to get a haircut, it costs money to travel home, it costs money to buy a nice outfit for an interview, it costs money to go to the movie, it costs money to live. Right. And there's a number that the federal government establishes on each campus. You have to supply that back to the federal government in order to operate an institution of higher education. So we've already got that number based on your market, based on your demographics of where you sit. So we believe that there can be a number established, outside of Pell Grant, outside of other financial aid that our student athletes do receive, that can provide, the benefit of our student athletes receiving the education, but also providing them, life moments where they need to be able to, go on a date, go to a movie, travel home on the weekend, whatever it might be, where they can have that extra spending money, if you will. So that's what I'm an advocate for. That's what the SEC is advocating. That's what the 5 conferences are advocating. We have the resources, the means to do it. So allow us to do it. That's what we're asking for. Allow us to do it and really take care of student athlete welfare needs. My own story, I played Division II football. Not near on the stage this is, but I wouldn't have had a chance to play or to get a college degree unless I played college athletics. And so I think we have done a bad job of advocating the access and affordability that we do provide our student athletes. There is great value in receiving a college scholarship, great value. And I think we have to do a better job of promoting that and providing a little bit more to our student athletes, and this pay for play conversation I think can really subside, because we need to do a better job of taking care of our athletes. So that's what I'm an advocate for. So it's a long answer to say, no, we're not pushing for pay for play.
Right.
We think there's another structure that can be put in place to accommodate our student athlete welfare.
And there was, several months ago, there was talk of those big conferences that you were talking about, almost kind of like leaving the NCAA.
A Division IV.
Yeah, Division IV, whatever the working title was for it. I mean, where do you stand on issues like that?
We've really come together again as that group of 125, the group of the 5 conferences, and we've really said, a breakaway. We all believe that if operated correctly, if we get the confidence back, if we have the right structure, that the NCAA is the right model. It's the right model to be governed underneath. And then within that, how can the 5 conferences be able to do some things that we're able to do financially around this student welfare matter, where we can govern a little bit differently? And I think instead of trying to govern a level playing field, because it's just not possible, our resources compared to other programs are different. And so instead of trying to create a level playing field, maybe the 5 conferences can do some unique things. So we don't believe in a breakaway. What we believe in is, can we govern differently because we have the resources to do it? We still need to schedule. We still need the NCAA basketball tournament. We still need other sports to play one another. So a breakaway just doesn't make a lot of sense for many reasons, including some legal reasons that we have to be mindful of as we talk about all this. So we think we need to stay within the NCAA, but let's have some access points where we can govern differently among the 5 conferences.
Interesting. So, the chancellors and presidents have had a role. I mean, you kind of described their role with the NCAA and how that's going to pass. I mean, moving forward, is that the same? Will they have the same type of role?
That's a big topic as well. We're all accountable to our university presidents and chancellors, and I think we're only as good as the vision set forth by our leadership on our campus. And we have a great chancellor in Dr. Jones, and he wants to do everything at the highest level. But I think what's happened is the last, I'd say, 16 to 18 years, really some of the night commission discussions have said the president should be more in charge of athletics. And so there was a shift in how we're governed. And the presidents and the board of directors and the executive committee, took charge. And then under Mark Emmert, the board of directors, they've made a lot of decisions that perhaps weren't vetted appropriately. And back to the practitioners. We're the practitioners. You're a practitioner.
Right.
People in this room helping put on this show, we're practitioners. We see every day what happens on our campuses. So instead of taking that control, the presidents need to be involved. They need to have oversight.
Sure.
They need to govern big picture items. But the day-to-day things, like the cost of attendance stipend, like governing the 5 conferences, we're the ones that are responsible. To me, the athletic directors have to step up as practitioners and say, we need to take better command of our enterprise, which is college athletics.
Sure.
We need a seat at the table when it comes to governance. We need to have a bigger voice. So we're not eliminating the presidents, because we can't. They're our bosses. But how do we get the practitioner voice back on the table? So that's kind of the next wave, is how are athletic directors more involved through our associations, the Division 1A Athletic Directors Association, through NACTA, Collegiate Directors of Athletics Association. How can we get our voice back on the table? And I think the presidents are realizing this. I know Dr. Jones is. I know our commissioner is realizing this, that between athletic directors and commissioners, we're the ones that have our feet on the ground.
Right.
And we understand the issues in real time and day to day. So I think we've got to get that back in play, where we have a stronger sense and a stronger voice of making these significant changes within the NCAA.
So what's next for this group? What do you do? What do you do now?
Yeah, so we had this update last week. So we'll take the rest of the fall to provide feedback through our commissioner, through Mike Slive. He'll then take that back through the executive committee, through the board, through Mark Emmert, through our presidents. Come January, there's a town hall meeting that the NCAA is hosting, where we hope to get a lot of the details on the table and really make some strong proposals that can be looked at throughout the spring of 2014. Come together again in the summer of 2014 in another town hall type setting is what they're looking at. And then by the fall of 2014, some of these changes are put in place. Or at least there's a plan announced that says, here's the timeline on when we can begin implementation of some of these changes. So it's somewhat of a fast track. Usually the NCAA, trying to, move the Titanic is not easy. Within the ocean, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move the Titanic because it's a big operation, but everyone's committed to doing something and being a little more nimble, because we think we've got to get that confidence level back among public opinion that says this is the right way to do things. And let's make some significant changes, but let's do it with everybody at the table.
Sure.
And try to match up the timeline to hit that fall of 2014 so we can begin some of this transformation.
Well, and part of the almost the public opinion, where it suffers a little bit is in the timeliness and the or lack thereof of the compliance cases and governance cases that have been kind of in the headlines, and that doesn't send a very good message. I mean, how does this group view that, and what will you do moving forward? If
you backtrack to what you had, the top 2 or 3 things, I think you put enforcement back into the top items that we're looking at. The enforcement model, it has to get better.
Right.
We're all, consumed when you go through an investigation like that, where it can just take over a campus and you get gridlocked. Think of the University of Miami. It was over 3 years where they first got notice that there might be something happening before they get a ruling and a decision. So think about that. Think about their football team, their student athletes who had nothing to do with those things, but yet they were paralyzed, the last couple of years. So we all believe that an enforcement model that speaks to what we go through again every day, and how we become more efficient, how the judicial process plays out more in a timely manner, and then how the penalties are fair. And then also, I believe that if you operate under a best practice principle, that your athletic department, you're doing everything right, but yet you have somebody go rogue within your program, that why is the football student athlete penalized? Why is the football coach penalized? Why is the chancellor, the athletic director? Why do all these people get sucked into this when you have one person who did something bad?
Right.
How can we have a system that takes care of that one person? And those are all the things that are on the table as well as we talk about the enforcement side, because that's a big part of what we do, and really having a strategic framework of, okay, when somebody does something bad, attack it,
right,
minimize it, take care of it, and then the institution can move on. That's what we're in favor of.
That enforcement is and it's probably the most customer public-facing one that there is. So it's the one that's always going to be top of mind.
And there's been some high-profile cases.
Very.
Miami, UCLA, Penn State, some very, very high-profile cases that have really garnered this attention to say we need change.
Sure.
And now's the time to do it.
Well, thanks. All right, Ross, we're going to be right back. We're going to show you a look at upcoming events, and then we've got 2 questions from Twitter that Ross is going to answer. So we'll be right back.
This week on campus. Tonight, check out your Ole Miss volleyball team as they take on MSU at 7 p.m. live on ESPNU. Also happening tonight, your top 25 nationally ranked Ole Miss soccer team takes on Kentucky in the SEC Soccer Tournament. Kickoff is slated for 7:30 p.m. and will air on the SEC Digital Network at secdigitalnetwork.com. Then Friday night, the Ole Miss basketball team tips off their 2013-14 season with a home doubleheader. The women's team, led by new head coach Matt Insel, gets things started at 5 p.m. when they host Jacksonville State inside the Tad Pad. Then welcome back Coach Andy Kennedy and your 2013 SEC champions as the men host Troy. That tip-off is scheduled for approximately 7:30. Saturday, the Ole Miss football team returns back to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium to host SEC opponent Arkansas. Kickoff is at 11:21 a.m. and will be the first home day game of the season. Join Rebel Nation in the challenge to reach 401,000 in attendance this season. Sunday, Rebel athletic action continues with volleyball returning home to host SEC opponent Texas A&M inside the Gillum Center. The match is our military appreciation game. All veterans and active military members in attendance will receive tickets to the following week's Ole Miss football game against Troy. Match starts at 1:30. Then, tipping off across campus at the Tad Pad at 2 p.m. is Ole Miss women's basketball when they host Central Arkansas. Fans who present their football ticket from the day before will gain free admission. Don't forget to join the voice of the Rebels, David Kellum, and head coach Hugh Freeze at Buffalo Wild Wings every week for our Coaches Show Reb Talk. Broadcast begins live at 7 p.m. Arrive early for best seating. Shark Tank posters are now available for purchase by visiting OleMissTeamShop.com. Ole Miss students, make sure you're signed up for Rebel Rewards by downloading the free app. For more information, visit rebelrewards.com. And finally, a reminder that a limited number of tickets are still available for the remaining home football games this season. Visit OleMissFB.com today to purchase your tickets. Join the 401k quest to top over 401,000 people in attendance this Rebel football season. For information on these and all other events, go to OleMissSports.com.
Welcome back to Studio 18, presented by Old Venice Pizza Company. We've got 2 questions from Twitter for Ross. Let's look at the first one here. Would a move to 4 super conferences help Ole Miss?
You want the long answer or the short answer? The answer is no, it would not. And we talked about this earlier in the show. If the listener was watching that part, Victoria, right now there's really 5. Big conferences, however you want to define them. There used to be the BCS. This is the last year of the BCS. And you had automatic access and you had qualifying access. Right. So now the 5 conferences have really established themselves to say, okay, now there's a playoff structure. So we don't believe a move to 4 super conferences would benefit our league, would benefit Ole Miss. We believe we're in the best athletic conference, greatest amount of revenue, greatest amount of branding, greatest amount of exposure, greatest competition. So we think the model's in a good spot right now. We have 5 conferences. This governance model will change with some positive outcomes. So we think that'll put us in a good spot. Good.
All right. Second question comes from Rachel. Do you think there will come a day where college athletes, student athletes, have agents representing them?
I don't believe so. Right now, student athletes have parents. They may have an uncle. They may have a high school coach. So there's already a lot of support that they receive right now from, I think, family and close contacts. But there is an association. There's a National Collegiate Players Association that's been formed in the last 5 to 8 years by a former UCLA student athlete. So that's an association that's represented some of these changes around student athlete welfare. They've advocated for some of these things. So they've already got an outlet that's already been established. So I don't see an agent format. To me, it's more about how can we help them? How can we help be their voice in giving them outlets? But also they've already formed one on their own. And I think that group will continue to evolve and be a part of our industry, going ahead.
Awesome. Well, I know you've got to go speak with Coach Kennedy, I believe, at
Yeah,
the Law Center.
at the Law Center, that's right.
So we're
That's
going to
right.
get you out of here. But there's no sneak peek of the season this week. This is a bye week, or last week was a bye week, so there was no episode this week. But be ready to watch Studio 18 Live next Wednesday at noon, followed by a sneak peek at next week's episode of the season. We'll see you then.